First of all, thank you so much for having me here. And yeah, I guess we have connected since a few years, and I'm so glad that we did. But this is great, this opportunity to come onto this platform. And so I think my pilot journey started. So I wanted to be a pilot since I was 5 years old because my grandfather was a flight engineer in Air India, actually. And he was like a father figure to me. And so yeah, I wanted to be a pilot. And he said that it would be a great job for me because I wanted to be just like him. And so after my 12th, I went for my flying school, came back, got a job when I was maybe 21. And yeah, the rest is history. I mean, being a pilot was the only thing I ever wanted to do. And it's been a great journey. Like it's had its ups and downs, but I wouldn't trade it for anything. So I think I mentioned to you that I was a really like heavy meat eater, and I used to make fun of vegetarians. I thought they were really missing out on life, and because I loved my meat. And one fine day, I met this friend. Actually, she was an acquaintance. She was vegan at the time, and she was a friend's friend. And I invited her over for lunch. And we were having an accidental vegan meal, which was dosa and sambar. And she just mentioned to me that, have you? So she was talking about veganism, and I was like, no, like, I love beef so much. Like, I could never stop beef and stuff like that. So she's like, have you ever looked into the eyes of a cow? And I looked at her and I said, no, like, why would I look into the eyes of a cow? It was so random. And yeah, so that one like statement that she made kind of stayed with me. And that evening, for some reason, I saw a PETA video. I just came across a PETA video, and it said one girl's journey to veganism. And that girl, it was a 2-minute video, and it was basically a girl like me who made fun of non vegetarians. And she didn't know much about veganism, but then she went online and she saw the cruelty behind the meat and dairy industry. And so slowly how she became vegan. And then I just started doing my own research, and I realized there's so much more to it, and there's so much behind this whole thing. And I called myself an animal lover. And I just felt like I was being a hypocrite. Like, how could I do this? If I called myself an animal lover, how could I be doing this to these animals? So it was actually pretty random. And I said, you know what? I'm not going to be vegan, but I'm going to try this for 2 weeks. I'm not going to tell anyone about it. And I'm just going to do it for 2 weeks. And my husband was not in town, thankfully, at that time. So that's it. I was like, I don't care. I mean, even if I'm eating dal rice for the next 2 weeks, but I want to see what happens. And those 2 weeks, so much happened because I deep dived into the research. I watched a lot of documentaries. And since I wasn't eating it at that time, I think all the information just like flowed through me. And that's it. I just told my husband that this is what I want to do. Like, I think this is the right thing to do. But I didn't turn vegan overnight. I would eat seafood once a week for about 6 months. And 6 months later, I was like, okay, this is it. I'm done. And so, yeah, that was my journey. It took me a while to get there, but I mean, I got there. It wasn't easy because I come from a Punjabi household where there was meat every day. And I wouldn't eat a meal if there wasn't meat. Like once a day, I had to eat meat. So that's where I come from. And my family is the same. So telling my mother like was a shock. It was a shock for her. She was like, how, why, why would you do this? Um, so yeah, I mean, I think the first few years it wasn't easy. Like it was always like a challenge to be around friends and family. Thankfully with him it wasn't that tough because he kind of accepted it, and like he was okay with my journey. And the good part is that I would decide what food was made at home, and he's pretty flexible, so he was okay eating whatever. And if he wanted to eat like something non-vegan, he would just order in, or maybe when he's outside, he would have it. because I said, I'm not comfortable getting it home and then I'm cooking it or I'm asking her to cook it. It just kind of, goes against what I believe in now. So he was okay with that, thankfully. And so with my husband, it was totally okay. But more than that, it was my parents and my mom basically, because there were a lot of times she would make fun of me or, like these little insults or these jibes like, oh, we're going to a vegetarian restaurant, or like, oh, what am I going to eat, or so yeah, it did get a little bit challenging, I think, over the years. But now it's become much easier. I think they've also accepted it, and thankfully they think about what she would eat. Like, it's not like me fending for myself. They'll be like, oh, but what will Ashti eat? So it's nice now that they do think about me. And of course, like, I would want all of them to be vegan, and there was a phase in my life where I'm like pushing it down their throat, and I'm like, come on, why are you doing this? You love animals, why would you do this? But then I also kind of let that go, and I accepted that everyone has their own journey and everyone has their time. And and the best part is I turned vegan, or like I started my journey for the animals. I also did a lot of research on the health angle of it. And I realized how bad meat and dairy is for us, because I always thought I needed meat for protein and I needed dairy for calcium. I didn't know about the dark side of the industry. I didn't know about like how bad it is for you. So when I realized all this, I did a few nutrition courses, and then that just opened my mind up, because I was blown. I was like, it's good for the animals, it's good for my health, it's good for the environment. Like, why didn't I do this earlier? That I think is the true circle of life, right? Like, and that's like harmony, and that's how we should be living. So that's what I realized. And the cycle of life isn't one trying to hurt each other and harm each other. It's about coexisting in harmony. And so yeah, like when I learned about all this, and then I was always into healthy eating. I was always one of those wanting to be fit and healthy, but I just did it wrong. Like, I would eat that piece of chicken, or I would eat that piece of meat with that grilled meat, and I would have like just a few vegetables, very few. But then when I realized what I was doing wrong, and I did the courses, and then it kind of became easy for me. I realized Indian food is actually so easily veganized. Like, most of our food is vegan, at home.
That was a surprise to me also.
Yeah.
That by default, a lot of our food just happens to be vegan.
Exactly. I mean, we are so lucky to live in this country. It's the best food in the world, I think, Indian food. And so it actually wasn't that difficult, because in my like daily life, say if I have a morning flight, like if I'm leaving at 4 or 5 in the morning, the previous day I would just put some overnight oats in the fridge. And in the morning, maybe cut up a banana, put it in my bag, and so my breakfast was done for the day. And lunch, normally on board, they normally give you a vegetarian meal, but I know it has ghee or something. So maybe I'll have just the rice and maybe carry like a dal or something. So it wasn't very difficult. I would really just stick to the basics. I mean, I would prefer to feel clean. I wouldn't want a fancy meal. I would just eat like dal, sabzi, roti, and I would be completely okay with it. So that's it, like just basically sticking to the basics. Like,
but you have shared so many pictures on your IG with such wonderful things
yeah,
that you eat. Come on, you have to tell us about that.
sometimes I make the effort for Instagram, you know, show that you can eat all this as
Can eat all this, yeah.
just because people are like, oh, vegan is boring and stuff like that. Because I don't want that picture to go. I don't want it to be about that. So sometimes I make these amazing salads, and of course, but salads, like, you eat this much, you need to eat this much, but I can't pack this much. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'll pack a little bit, and then I'll show it on Instagram. But yeah, so basically salads. But what I realize is the volume of food that we're consuming being vegan is a lot. So packing that much is difficult. So I have to like pack meals which are calorie dense in those small portions. Because if I'm packing a salad and a dal and a sabzi and a roti, my bag is just full of that. I'm not put my flight stuff in it.
Yeah.
That's why oats was the best, because I would literally load it up with whatever I needed, with peanut butter and nuts and seeds and everything, which would last me for a while. And otherwise, like what I really love to do is like, bean cutlets, like maybe rajma cutlets or chana cutlets. I think that's a really hearty meal for me, with just anything with that, maybe a side salad, because then you get your protein and you get your fiber and everything. So yeah, I think like and also over time I've evolved what I used to eat earlier. I mean, I think when you start off with veganism, you're experimenting, and I still love to experiment, and I'm always trying out new dishes and stuff like that. Yeah, so it's been a wonderful journey.
So when you travel to other cities and you're not at the flight, you find access to vegan food pretty easy, right? Because it's just Indian food minus the ghee and dairy, right? I mean,
Yeah. If I'm in India, it's pretty easy. But North India is a little difficult because they put ghee and butter and everything. So it's a little hard there. So trying to explain to them, please don't put ghee, please don't put butter. Most of the times I just say I'm allergic. So that they just
that's a
don't.
good tip, actually.
Yeah, so I just say I'm allergic, please. Which I am. I am lactose intolerant. So, which like most
Which, by the way, 70% of the world is.
yeah, so
They don't even know it, that all their stomach troubles come from that.
most of us are lactose intolerant. So I just tell them I'm allergic, and hope that they're not putting it. Maybe they do sometimes, and sometimes I do get a whiff of it, and sometimes I do somehow taste it, and then either I won't eat it or I'll eat it. I mean, it just depends on.
Yeah.
I think the first thing you can do, if you've decided that you want to transition, the first thing is, what do you normally eat in your day? So if you have, like, say, egg burji for breakfast, replace that with a tofu burji. If you have, say, a chicken for dinner, a chicken tandoori, replace it with a tofu tikka. So it's just about, like, strategically replacing what you normally eat. You don't have to completely change your whole diet. Not at all. It's just about taking those few components in your day and replacing it into a vegan option. And also realizing what are the foods that you eat which are anyways vegan, like dal and sabzi and roti and stuff like that. So if you add ghee to it, just skip the ghee, maybe add oil if you want, or add a vegan ghee, because right now we have so many plant-based options. And I think to transition, it's okay to use those things. It's okay to use the vegan ghee. It's okay to use the vegan cheese for a while till you transition, and then maybe use it occasionally because it's also a high source of calorie. And then also not be so hard on yourself, not worry if you've made a mistake, if you've gone out and they've accidentally given you something non-vegan. Don't make a big deal out of it, especially when you're with your friends and family. You don't want to make them seem like this is a totally unattainable lifestyle. It has to seem like it's easy. I mean, it's not easy always, but if you show your friends and family that it's difficult, then it's not appealing to them. So I think, and you also have to be realistic about it, of course. Like for the first maybe year or two, I had to research about every single restaurant I was going to and checking if they had vegan options, because if I'm going out somewhere and there are no vegan options, I'm going to eat and go. So there is a little bit of planning which is required. And I think that kind of helps you in the long run as well.
Really, I think that is the key point you made. It helps you in the long run because, see, all this planning, all this research, what you start learning is, I feel like I've not done any courses, but I'm feeling like a nutritionist myself, because you really learn about what is suitable to the human body, how much of what should you be eating. That vegan ghee, great, I was using it for a bit. Now let's phase that out, right? Let's try to stick. And then you start appreciating whole foods even more. You start appreciating that freshness of a vegetable, because you learn that overcooking the vegetable, like that bhindi that we have cooked to death, right, has got nothing to give you actually. So these are the sorts of very wonderful learnings that we get now, because the whole world is kind of shifting to plant-based, and there's just that much more material out there, right? And also you want to touch upon some information that you may have found about why dairy or other things are bad, because I know, for example, the China study was a very big book for me when I was researching, and it was shocking for me to see the correlation between cancer and dairy. So did you have any such aha moments?
For me also, it was the China study. When I read it, I was shocked. And then, of course, it was the course that I did was also by Dr. Colin Campbell, which is a plant-based nutrition course from eCornell. So there's a lot of information there on diabetes, correlation with dairy and meat, and cancer, and all of these. But before that, also I wanted, like you had asked about, the transition part. I think it's also important that we're eating enough. A lot of people make the mistake where they don't eat enough calories. So if you're replacing, say, your meat with a dal, or you're replacing your tofu, like your egg, with maybe a smoothie, you're eating a lot less calories, because meat and dairy are very high calorie foods. Now, what happens is, if you're going to switch over to something which has lower calories, you're definitely not meeting your calorie requirement for the day. And slowly with time, you feel weak, you don't feel good. Some people have hair fall, some people get other issues, maybe hormonal issues. So I've had a lot of friends who come to me and say, I tried vegan for 2 months, but it just didn't work for me. I felt weak, I felt tired all the time. And I always ask them, like, did you eat enough? Did you check how much you're eating? Because, like we were discussing, you need a lot of volume of foods. The calories are much lower. Like fruits and vegetables are high volume but low calorie. So yeah, it's something to keep in mind, that you have to eat that much. And for me, I think I enjoy it the most, because I love eating. So I don't mind eating all day. And I mean, everyone around me is like, how do you eat so much? And I'm like, it's about eating right. It's not about, it's how you eat. You have to be smart about eating. Eat for sure. So I think in the morning, my smoothie is like the most important. So I'm always getting a green in there. I'm getting maybe 2 to 3 fruits. I'm getting 2 to 3 vegetables, my flaxseed powder, which is really important. So some healthy source of omegas. And yeah, so that sets me up for the day. And then lunch is normally just regular, South Indian, like dal, sambar, whatever, rice. I'm totally fine with that. And then dinner, normally I make a big salad again. So it will be like some greens, maybe some roasted vegetables, some raw vegetables, healthy dressing with tahini or something. And then a source of protein, like either tofu or maybe just like whatever's left over from lunch. So it's definitely some planning, because now I've realized the importance of these foods. I've understood that I need these servings of greens in a day to make me feel good, and to just, it's about feeling good inside. And what I noticed is, when I was a meat eater, I would have my medicals every year because of flying. And finally, I was a heavy red meat eater, but my hemoglobin was always low.
Interesting.
My hemoglobin was around like 10. And my doctor always said, no, it's normal for an Indian female, it's normal. So I never really worried about it. I would take those like medicines 30 days before my medicals, trying to increase my hemoglobin. And 1 year after I turned vegan, my hemoglobin was 14.5.
Wow.
In 1 year. And I didn't do anything. I
just absorption of that iron better from the original source, which is the plant-based source.
Yeah, and because I started eating so many greens, which I never used to eat before. So it was amazing. And now, in fact, my last medical, which was last year, my doctor did all my tests and he was surprised. He was like, how is this possible? You're 35 and these are your numbers. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, I eat healthy. I didn't tell him I'm vegan or whatever, but it has, every year that I've been on this lifestyle, I've got so much of like confidence, because I feel so good. My numbers are so good. Like everything is good, and that's what gives me that confidence that, oh my God, like everyone should be doing this. Yeah. I think initially also when I was doing my research, and same when I did that course as well, they spoke about how in the whole, industry with doctors, they barely get any nutrition information. It's maybe about 4 months throughout their term of their studying. And that's really sad, because they focus so much on the outside and the pharmaceutical, like the medicines you can take, but they
It's
don't.
not about wellness.
Yeah, it's not about actually curing the disease. It's just handling the symptoms. And I always found that so weird. Like, this is the kind of world we live in where we're just managing one symptom to the other. We're not really going to the root cause of any issue, you know.
That's right.
And that's really sad. And that's what I got from these courses. And that's why I felt like this has to change somehow. And every doctor, I mean, like, yeah, 99% of the doctors we know don't know about this. They don't know how bad dairy is. And of course, with time, hopefully it will change. So the first one was about, yeah, so basically I think a month ago I had a fall and I hurt myself and stuff like that. Thankfully, nothing too serious. But I since then, obviously, I have been on a very strict like diet wherein I'm making sure that I'm having all my greens, my fruits, my vegetables, and all the information that I have learned over the years. And within like a few weeks I was fine. I my Now I went back to the doctor recently and he said, yeah, all your tests are normal and you're fine. Of course, a lot of it is, of course, mindset as well. When you believe that you're going to be okay, you will be okay, a lot of it. But I do believe that this lifestyle and, you know, eating this way does help a lot. When you're not consuming dead flesh, you're not consuming any cruelty or torture or whatever, obviously your body is in a better state to heal. And I also believe that our bodies inherently want to heal. That's our natural state, you know. So if you allow it to heal, it will heal. So yeah, it has definitely, and it's not just this instance. I've experienced it many times in these 5 years, where literally I've had a fever, maybe I don't even remember, maybe once in 5 years, or a cold maybe once in 5 years. And earlier I was prone to colds and fevers and, you know, stuff like that. But now I don't know. I've sometimes I'm like, wow, I haven't fallen sick in so long. You know, it's like when I tried this for 2 weeks, when I started it, the other thing I noticed was how I felt. I felt amazing, and I thought that I would be tired and I would be cranky, and you know, I haven't eaten meat for so long, but I felt so amazing. And no one else can take that. No one else can explain it to me. No one can take that feeling away from me. It's all about your experience. And so I always tell everyone, just try it for 21 days, try it for a month. Don't listen to me. Don't listen to anyone. Just try it for yourself. See your personal experience. See how you feel. You know, at the end of the day, we have to be in tune with our bodies. We have to listen to our bodies. Learn to listen.
I think that's a good tip. Yeah, just try it. Right. Yeah. So that brings us to what do you make and make it simple for others to try it?
Yeah, so that's what I mean, I've tried. So I started this initiative called Bella's Bowls, and it's actually on pause now. But I started it last year, and basically just what I eat. I mean, the smoothies that I make, I felt like, you know, why not give this to people around here who also would value it. And so it's been a great journey. And I thought that I could donate the profits to organizations that, you know, take in these, so basically large animals. So I wanted to do an organization that takes in rescued cows and goats and maybe chickens. So basically the animals that I used to eat, in a way to kind of give back to the animals I once ate, because I feel bad, you know, I did this to them. So it's just kind of my way of repaying and giving back. But also in a way helping people understand the importance of eating this way. And yeah, so a lot of people tried it and they want subscriptions. And a lot of people told me that, you know, my health improved just by having that one smoothie in a day. And that gave me the confidence and stuff to believe that this works. And after that, I would share recipes, and I was like, you don't need me, you know, like you can do this yourself. That's what I want to do. I want to give you that confidence to do this in your own life and take care of your own health, because that's what we all should be doing. You know, I think it's important to always add some vegetables. So I know smoothies are very fruit heavy, and so it becomes sugar heavy. So what I try to do is add at least 2 to 3 vegetables. So my mains are sweet potato. I steam it and then freeze it. So I have like bags of sweet potato. The other one is sweet pumpkin. Again, steam it, freeze it. Beetroot is another one, and kale is another one. So I have these 4 in my freezer all the time. And then depending on what I'm making, I'll add. So like today I had a smoothie with banana. I'll add 1 banana, a little bit of frozen mango, which I had from the season, which I'd frozen like a whole bunch of. And I added a little bit of blueberries. And then I added sweet pumpkin, sweet potato, and kale. So I have 3 vegetables and 3 fruits. And I have 1 tablespoon of flaxseed powder, 1 tablespoon of chia seeds. I add maybe about 2 dates or 1.5, 2 dates, and water. I don't use any plant milk anymore. I've realized that I don't need the plant milk, because if I'm adding the nuts or the seeds, it's making the milk anyways.
Did you add nuts directly to the smoothie then?
Yeah, so if I'm adding, like I would just add almonds into it and
directly into it.
And then it's, yeah.
So then it's also an interesting thing, because I think mentally we have to transition out of that idea of milk itself, right? Because what is milk? It's just a liquid, isn't it?
Exactly. So I realize that when I am straining the fiber out of like the almond of the cashews, it's not whole food plant-based anymore.
You're right.
So then I was like, oh, why am I doing this? And most of the time you make it and it gets spoiled the next day. So I'm wasting it. So I just started adding the nuts in with water, and it worked perfectly.
I feel like I've been vegan 9 years, but each of these conversations leaves me more informed. But I also wanted to tell you something, because I have to share this. I am actually a follower of the Gita, and now I teach the Gita very, deeply into it. Yeah. You said something about harming the animals earlier, but now, really wanting to contribute to their betterment. Yeah. It actually says that in the Gita, that sentient beings you really just can't harm. Yeah. And it's just, you're just asking for trouble down the road. If anyone out there is following any kind of spirituality, that kind of harm that we do, and to dairy these days, is shocking, right? You did not imagine that this was happening behind the scenes to dairy, but it is at a magnitude and horror that I have not been able to grasp. I really can't watch those videos anymore. And my point is, if I can't watch them, I'm not going to do it to them, right? Yeah. So really commendable that you made such a big leap, and now you want to go back to help them. So what do you do for calcium?
Mm-hmm. Oh, you asked me?
What do you do for protein? What do you do for iron? I know you said your iron went up. Yeah. And I think your answer was in eating balanced. Mm-hmm. Okay, the first question is, you do get to calcium and iron, but let's start with Raghu's question. Is it okay to mix fruits and vegetables in the smoothie? Because actually, many people do say that the digestion times and the enzymes required for these two vary. And so you could just end up with an upset stomach. What do you think about that?
So actually, I have asked a few doctors about this as well, and I have seen if there's any research on this. But actually, there isn't. There is no research saying that you should not be mixing fruit and vegetable. And personally, I have felt fine. So every time I do it, in fact, what happens to me is when I eat just a fruit smoothie, I get hungrier much faster. Obviously, because it's just sugar loaded. At the end of the day, a smoothie is still not the best. Eating it raw is the best.
Right.
What I'm doing is I'm actually blunting my sugar by adding the vegetables into it.
So it's not such a high glycemic index and a spike right away.
Exactly, which is what we don't want. So it's actually gradually doing it.
Got it. Very nice. Okay, so I think that answered Raghu's question. So you can start talking about calcium by the time we get to the other questions.
So calcium, I think, again, it's just greens and beans, calcium and iron, a lot of greens and beans.
Beans, huh? When you say beans, you mean dried beans or you mean those long green beans?
Dals.
Okay.
Yeah, so dals, source, I think even like...
So that's news. You're saying calcium comes from dals.
Yeah, doesn't the calcium come from dals? I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I think it does. You're right about that. And this even greens, I wasn't always aware that. I mean, as like you, to me, calcium was milk, dahi, cheese. I had not thought of these sources, but you're right.
So tofu, but then if it's calcium set, it's a good source of calcium. But I'm not sure if tofu is calcium set. But I know like most of the food, like general greens and beans, like dals and all, are very high in calcium and iron itself, both of them. So those two are actually very easy to take care of, calcium and iron. The few that I would say, iodine is also very important on a vegan diet, and a lot of us make a mistake. Then we switch to like non-iodized salt.
Yes.
That becomes a problem because iodine is important, and we should be using iodized salt. And that's a mistake I made for a few years until I did a lot of research, because a lot of people in India, a lot of doctors, they also don't know this.
That's a very good tip, Ashti, because you're right. When when we switch to this journey, we get so excited that we go all out. Yeah. Gluten bhi nikalo, sab nikalo, and then you don't have. So I do use Sendha Namak now. I don't use iodized salt. So you're right.
So if you are not using a multivitamin which has iodine, then I would please suggest that you switch to iodized salt.
I see. I see. That's really news for me. Okay.
Because I mean, there was a reason that they made iodized salt, because of thyroid and because of populations where they were not getting iodine. So you get all these thyroid issues and other issues, if your iodine is low. And of course, it takes a long time, but we have to be careful about it. Okay. So iodine is one thing. The other one, of course, is B12. I know a lot of vegans who say we don't want to supplement with B12. We don't like to supplement, whatever. But B12, the only source is a supplement right now. Even if you're having nutritional yeast or other forms of natural B12, it is not enough. You have to supplement. So supplementing, I think 15 micrograms twice a week is good.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And do you feel like, protein has been easy to just, so you said dals, tofu, for example, is protein. I've also felt one thing, Ashti, that, over time, we started breaking things up into all this calcium, iron, protein, a little too much. So if you basically eat your balanced diet, you don't need to start getting agitated over, am I getting enough quantity of calcium and enough quantity of this, right? If you just eat right, you're fine, which is what our ancestors kind of did.
Exactly. Yeah, that is so true. And I think we are the only species that ask someone else how much to eat. Like a dog doesn't go to a dog nutritionist and say, how much should I eat? But we humans will go to a nutritionist and say, give me a plan. But it's all innate. It's all inside us. We just have to tap into it. So yeah, I totally believe that we should be following our bodies and learn to listen to our bodies. And at the end of the day, like it's a balance. Some days, of course, I eat really badly. Maybe I eat like burgers and fries, vegan. And some days I'm eating raw foods and whatever. But I'm happy in that journey.
Yeah. I think, Ashti, from speaking to each of you, one thing I have learned is, it's like a mix and match for everyone, right? There seems to be a few consistent things that all of you magical people are saying. One is you're saying eat as much fruits and vegetables as possible, eat them as raw as possible. And fruits and vegetables should include a lot of greens, right? Eat some grain, don't overdo the grain. Eat some proteins like dal, tofu, don't need to overdo it, right? And be chill about all of this is your overall kind of guideline. And I think within this, a few people do it differently, like, Ajitesh Verma, who's into physical fitness and the muscle man and, amazing in his athleticism. He eats an even simpler diet. I mean, he sprouts every day and he just has a sprout salad at night. You would think a man of his size should be eating something else, but he just has a simple sprout salad for dinner, a simple 2 roti meal for lunch, and a simple, some other breakfast in the morning. That's it, right? So I think the main takeaway for people is from all of this is to take the basics, but experiment and see how you feel inside, and don't make the mistakes others do. Like, if someone's saying iodine can be an issue, well, don't switch out of iodine right yet. If someone's saying B12 can be reduced if you stop all dairy and meat, then take that B12 supplement. You don't wait until you can be sure that you can pull it out, right?
Yeah, and also I think we're in our infancy, right? The plant-based movement. There's so much for us to learn right now. There's so much that we don't know. So yeah, I mean, whatever information we have, we work with it, and we listen to our bodies, and just do the best that we can.
Yeah, I would say that having said that, Ashti, there's been information about many tribes that have been, accidentally vegan for a long time, and they are probably our best understanding of how over generations people have been just fine with no issues. And now I know many people are getting pregnant and having babies that are completely on a plant-based diet. So I suppose there's no risk to going this route.
No way. I mean, it's a truly rewarding journey for sure. Yeah, but I thought someone was raising their hand. I wasn't sure what that meant.
Okay, let's see. Yes, there is a Harshad that's raised his hand. Oops. Harshad, please ask your question. No problem.
Thank you, Nitya. My experience is I'm a 5'11" I used to be an athlete. Now I'm retired. I'm 70. But my diet used to be like 22 to 2,500 calories. I used to eat cooked food. I was vegetarian all along. Then when I became vegan, I lost about 20 pounds. I still kept on eating like 3 meals, 4 meals sometimes if I went and played or exercised. And I still used to eat like 1,800 to 2,000 calories. But when I increased my quota of fresh fruits and vegetables, my requirement went down like about 12 to 1,500 calories with the same lifestyle, active lifestyle. So when I was eating a lot of cooked food and all that, probably I was consuming plenty of calories, digesting it. When I started eating raw fruits, vegetables, and all that, they're heavily packed with the nutrients. My body was getting enough nutrients. And whenever I did extra exercise or something, I would eat nuts, nut milk, stuff like that. And I still take about 1,500 calories daily, but now I've reduced my activities, and due to the COVID, I can't play tennis or go out and do certain exercise. But my understanding is that if you go increase your raw intake, your calorie need goes down quite a bit.
Very nice, Harshad sir. And how long have you been vegan?
I turned vegan in 2011, but in 2016, I went raw vegan for about 16 months. And then, of course, because of the social commitments and family pressure, I started eating cooked food at nighttime. But I have a big bowl of salad, and I eat just about not even half as much as I used to earlier.
Yeah.
That's really a great story, sir. And I suppose at your age, when you're talking about fitness, tennis, and all of this, that's an inspiration to everyone right here. So I'm glad you were able to speak, because, one wonders how it affects people who are a little older, a little younger, and you're just a living example of someone who seems to be doing very well on this.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your story.
Yes, thank you very much.
Any other questions or comments?
I had one comment.
Yes.
Ashti said that medical doctors learn about 4 months about nutrition. They learn less than 4 hours.
You're wrong, Ashti. It's not even 4 months. It's 4 hours.
I was doing that.
Okay, it's even worse. Harshad sir and Ashti, I think those are very important points. So you're giving yourself up to somebody who's very good at diagnosing your current medical issue. And even that probably in a certain specialty. If you've got a heart problem, going to an oncologist. Now, if it's related to something else, you have to anyway go to a different specialist, right? But none of them are looking at you holistically from a wellness perspective, right? Who is that person?
Yeah. It's so sad, right?
That is.
Really,
and they're not looking at the underlying cause. They're just suppressing the symptoms.
Yes.
And then when it comes to cancer and stuff like that, you cannot suppress it.
Yeah.
So once you go into doctor's hands, it's very difficult. Very few people, like prostate cancer or breast cancer or something, they can reverse it.
Yeah.
To the point where you feel better. But other cancers, you go there, they give you prognosis. We can do this, we can do this, we can do this. Instead of 6 months, you'll live maybe a year, and a miserable 1 year. That's not acceptable.
I think you're so right. I think all of us are basically feeling that if only we could plead with people to heed this, so that if it is avoidable, I mean, people will get cancer for other reasons. People will fall sick for other, maybe genetic, inherited kind of things. But from a preventable method, which is food, right? And it's a large part of your day and night. You feel really eager to share this with others, but then, you have to hold back and you can't just force it on people.
Yeah, I know. I mean, for them, it just seems like hearing these things is so difficult for people because they have their own notions and stuff. And it's always it's taken in a very defensive way, especially with dairy. I think our country is so entrenched in this dairy system. It's so sad. Like, you can't even tell anyone, milk is bad for you. It's like, how can you say that?
Krishna has been drinking milk, okay? And ancestors have been drinking milk. They all lived a long time. There's so many of these. For anyone who has all those same questions, now it's all on Google. You can find all of the answers to these silly questions now anywhere. It's really, really not required, not necessary, and actively harmful.
Yeah.
Ashti, we have one more question for you. Yeah. How do you manage cravings?
Oh, cravings. I mean, like, I love chocolate. So there's always vegan chocolate at home. After every meal, I have a piece of chocolate. That's my thing. And once a week, maybe, I mean, I don't really it's not like regimented. Whenever I feel like now it's so easy in Bangalore, at least, like, go on Swiggy, just search vegan, and there are tons of options. Like Baskin Robbins has ice cream, and like Energivate has those brownies. And so, yeah, I mean, I just do what I feel like, honestly. Like, whenever earlier I was a bit strict and I was kind of a lot more whole food plant-based, but I think I've started eating for my soul as well now. It's not just my body, it's my mind and my soul. And I feel good. I feel good at the end of the day. I mean, I realize the importance of cravings, and to satisfy my cravings is just in a vegan option. And I think now we have so many amazing options. It's unbelievable.
Very nice. Thank you so much, Ashti. We've just reached the end of the hour, and we'll have all of this available to you. If you can share your Instagram handle and any other ways you would like to be contacted, people can follow you and you'll share more tips with us.
Sure. So my Instagram handle is ThatVeganPilot, and I share lots of recipes and a lot of posts on like veganism, and just try and make people think out of the box. Because like for me, it was just that one comment which just took me down this path. So I hope to just open people's minds, to a different way of thinking.